We have 11 amazing restaurants featuring a wide variety for every price range and appetite. South Point's Garden Buffet has something for everyone at unbeatable prices. Or, if hunger strikes in the middle of the night, join us at Coronado Cafe. The American menu offers breakfast, lunch, or dinner 24 hours a day, plus a Chinese kitchen for authentic Chinese dishes from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. From steak and eggs to wonton soup, it's fast and friendly service 24/7. When you need a quick pick-me-up, you can find it at our state-of-the-art Starbucks just inside the main South Point entrance. Order ahead with the Starbucks app for easy mobile order pickups. Or enjoy your favorites in the relaxing dining area anytime, day or night. If you love Mexican food, Baja Miguel's has all of your south-of-the-border favorites. There are dozens of classics to choose from, like fajitas, ceviche, chimichangas, tacos, and more. And for spirit lovers, Baja's colorful non-smoking tequila bar is right outside.
It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles and Alex White.
Good morning. Welcome into this Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio. Jeff Parles, Alex White, alongside me. We are thrilled, as always, to be with you on the first Saturday of 2025, Alex.
Very exciting, and we're going to cover as many sports as we can today. We're adding a big college basketball slate to our Sports by the Book Saturday.
Yes, we be ready. Be ready. Despite what the thumbnail said, be ready for college basketball coming through over the next few weeks. All right. Real quick here, because there's a bunch of things that start right at the top of the hour that I at least want to touch on real quick. Kentucky and Florida, which is way too good of a game to be going at 11 a.m. local time in Lexington in college hoops. Wildcat, two top 10 teams. Wildcats are 3-point favorites. Alex, real quick, people want to bet this in the next minute or so. They still have a moment. I laid 3 with Kentucky at home against Rupp. Florida's unbeaten. Second best start in Gator history, but brutal place to play. And I still think the Cats overall just are the better basketball team. As good as Florida's been, I laid 3 with Kentucky.
Pretty wild that this is the first day for all SEC conference games, right? Starting, so we'll get to as many as we can. But I'm on the other side. I like Florida getting that 3. I jumped in at 3.5 earlier this week. So little two-way action to start off our show.
Yeah, this is a great game to kick off what is a loaded day in the SEC, but you know what? That's just going to be a day in the SEC this year with right now, Lenardi has 13 of 16 in. If you're going Ken Palm rating wise, no one is outside of the top 65. The weakest team is 63rd in South Carolina. Unprecedented strength in the SEC in basketball. Well, you know what? They lose their football dominance. They got to be dominant somewhere, right, Alex? So 3 right now on that. All right.
On that note, thank you, Texas, because I did get my dog there the other day with Arizona State covering that 13.5. So good week for me. We'll see how we do in week 18. I went 3-0 this day and 5-0 Monday and Tuesday. Now we've got a crazy slate to trying to decipher through. So should be fun.
Before the other game at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 a.m. Pacific gets going. It's in college football. Sorry for bouncing around so quickly. Don't worry, we'll get the NFL because that doesn't start right immediately. Liberty and Buffalo in the Bahamas Bowl. Alex, I'm going to defer to you here. I don't know what the heck to do here. Buffalo's a 4-point favorite. No Slater and a lot of other key players for Liberty here today. So I don't know what to do with this. Buffalo's 4-point favorite in this one.
I think that line movement is correct. Of course, Liberty would have been a small favorite if Caden Slater or Salter was the quarterback here for Liberty. But without him, it is very hard to jump in on this one. I also made the total higher, but you got to take some off without him as well. So no play for me in this bowl game.
Yeah, no clue whatsoever. Again, if they were stale lines from months ago, from a month ago, yeah, I feel pretty good about myself. Not right now with everything that's gone on. Even though the ACC completed one of the greatest bowl seasons of all time, 2-11 straight up and 1-12 against the closing number, with Louisville being the only one who covered their number, which I didn't even realize they went off as an underdog.
Yes.
But again, just shows the chaos of the bowl season. So, all right. We have a lot more college hoops to get to. We'll get to that a little later because we got to start in the NFL. 2 games here today. And You start off with the Browns and the Ravens, which is the biggest line of the NFL season by margin. 20. Yes, NFL game at 20 here today with the Ravens with a win. They'll win the AFC North yet again. Cleveland with a loss will still be live for the number one overall pick if the Patriots and Titans both win on Sunday. The Browns would move to number one with a loss in this game. There's even some 20.5 in the market now, Alex, so we might not even be done yet getting to the peak of this number. The only quibble that I really have, actually, I brought up with Chris yesterday. Bailey Zappi got named the starter 2 days ago, and the line vaulted from 18.5 to 20. Why? That's my only question here with this one, Alex.
I don't agree with that movement either. I do think Bailey Zappi is a little bit of an upgrade from what we've seen from DTR so far this year and last year. But I was looking for a way to play this over because I think the Ravens will kind of do what they want offensively. But you do have to check the weather. There might be some wind there, and I need the Browns to potentially score a little bit here to help get that over. Right now, Baltimore 12.5 in the first half. Might still be good. I think they'll be up by 2 touchdowns, and the total is 21 first half. So that's the way I would look at playing a lot of these games, right? If they get out to a big lead, maybe rest some of their guys. But we know Derrick Henry is playing for something. He needs to score a touchdown. And we know that this team is playing for the division. So I can't fault this line here. I did make them originally 18.5, real number over the current Cleveland Browns.
You mentioned the weather. 31 degrees with no precipitation. All right, that part's okay. 12-mile-an-hour consistent wind gusting into the low 20s. Could play an issue, but again, look at this line. Look at how the Ravens play.
Yeah.
I mean, this is, again, it's an NFL game. I'm looking for any reason to take 20 points, and I can't get there on Cleveland. That's how bad of a mismatch this is that I can't get there on a 20, Alex.
It's true, and especially we do want to look at the inflated lines and see if you can find a reason to bet the dog, because sometimes those must win or have to win, all the pressure's on them. The other team, Cleveland Browns, are just going to be playing loose and fun, and Bailey Zappi's trying to prove something here in this one. So as we go through the slate, especially tomorrow, we'll definitely be talking about that and where we can find value on the underdog getting points.
20 in an NFL game. Again, still not close to the biggest one ever, as we know, Alex. That was back in the peak of the Denver Bronco Peyton Manning heyday, back in the early 2010s. I'll give you the exact date in a second here. 2013 was the time for that. October 13, 2013, when the Denver Broncos closed only a 27-point favorite in that game. Only. Jacksonville covered with relative ease on that day. But again, this is different circumstances, to say the least. Quarterback, as bad as Blake Bortles was at times, better than whatever Cleveland is throwing out there today, especially with Jameis Winston as the number 3 quarterback. But the funny part of this, and I brought this up yesterday, Alex, just remember the Browns beat this Raven team earlier this year. That is the only reason Baltimore is still playing this week to win the AFC North. If they had just handled their business in Cleveland that day, it'd be over already. But that was also, just to remind everyone, quite possibly the best spot of the entire NFL season. It was the first game after Watson got hurt. Jameis came in, played great. Cedric Tillman had a huge day, so just tread carefully for trying to say, Cleveland beat them. No. Totally different circumstances.
Trying to look up the injury report because that's going to become very important in the next matchup. But any key players out for either side that we do need to know?
Ravens, hold on a second. Cleveland again.
Ravens, no Justice Hill.
Cleveland, the biggest thing is, again, remember, new quarterback in Bailey Zappi. You're not going to see Jerome Ford, so they're still down on running backs. You're not going to see David Njoku. It's not good on the Cleveland side without those two. Again, they'll still likely have all their receivers, so everyone looks to be good. Justin Hill is the biggest name out for Baltimore, and that's not the end of the world. They have enough depth behind Derrick Henry. Get him ready for next week, more critical on that. All right, let's go to the next game, NFL-wise. Steelers and the Bengals. All right, so Alex, we talked about this a little bit earlier in the week. there was this just incorrect thought going through a lot of people's minds, at least on social media, on Sunday when the schedule was released of, why are the Steelers and playing after Baltimore? This game's not going to mean anything for them. That's just wrong. Because you and I talked about this. Vinny and I talked about this yesterday. The Steelers lose this game and the Chargers win against the Raiders. The Steelers would fall to the 6, which instead of being potentially a road favorite in Houston, it'd be an underdog by at least a touchdown in Baltimore next week. Huge difference in everything here. With that said, even with Chase Brown questionable in a game-time decision, even with T. Higgins questionable on the Cincinnati end of things, even with this game in Pittsburgh, Bengals are still a 2-point favorite here at the South Point. There's a lot of 2.5 in the market. Totals moving on up to 48.5 everywhere moments ago. So it's a hard handicap, Alex, especially with the injuries on the Cincinnati side. And look, this is not going to be Pittsburgh giving up midway through the game, especially if it's tight, Alex.
No, definitely not. But in one case, I mean, they are still locked into the playoffs. The Bengals are definitely the more desperate team. We saw that last week against the Broncos. And, they fought all the way to overtime to get that win and still be in this position. I like the Bengals in this spot, and I just took them on the money line. I heard Chris say this there's 2 different parlays kind of out there. I am on the Bengals money line with the Chargers laying the points because I think if the Steelers lose, Chargers will be playing really tough against the Raiders here and can cover that 4.5. So that's my parlay that I did lock up. I used the Bengals -2 in a contest as well. So current form right now, and I know that the Steelers have played 3 really good teams. I just don't like what I'm seeing offensively. I worry about Russell Wilson and the George Pickens kind of chat going back and forth. We've seen that go bad for both of them with different teams. So if they aren't in sync right now, they really need George Pickens. That's hurt them without him when he was injured. Now they need him on the same page. So the way Joe Burrow is playing, and I mean, I know there is still pressure, but there's a lot they can't control tomorrow. So they'll be playing loose in their best offense today. I know the Steelers have the better defense, but I like the Bengals in this one.
I don't know what to do with this game. I leaned to Cincinnati because the Steelers have just fallen apart over the last month. Now, look, the competition is ratcheted up, but who are you expecting to see in the playoffs? Like, you're going to see higher-end competition, obviously. Since that win in Cincinnati, which was December 1, their only win is against Cleveland, which that was just an epic showing by the Browns, and by epic, not good at all. And in the last 3 weeks, they've been totally non-competitive. 3 2-score losses. And 2 of those were 3-score losses mixed in there for Pittsburgh. The big concern is always, I think we kind of know what we're getting out of Cincinnati. We know what we're getting, even with the injuries. Their offense is going to play a high-end game. Their defense is going to stink it up more likely than not. We kind of saw it again last week where the Bengals got pretty fortunate. The Broncos were legitimately 1 first down away from this all being over, because Denver picks up that 3rd and 10 in overtime. Denver runs the clock out, takes the tie, goes to the playoffs, and the Bengals are done, which also would have blew up my there will not be a tie this year in the NFL bet, which somehow we've made it to week 18 alive, Alex. But when this is all said and done, I'm going to take the better quarterback. I'm going to take Joe Burrow. I'm going to take the Bengals. Take the Bengals here. I guess I like your parlay. But I would just moneyline the Chargers. Just go moneyline. Even though you're probably right. Like if the Bengals win, Chargers right now are 4.5 or 5 against the Raiders. Yeah, they probably covered that here. So just juice dependent more so than anything. Yeah. I would go again. You can go Bengal Charger or Steeler and Raider. If the Steelers win, Harbaugh, I'd be floored if Harbaugh played his guys for more than a quarter against the Raiders.
My only concern with that is I'm a very big Harbaugh fan. We know that. I think his coaching with whoever he has might outcoach the other side.
I 100% agree with that. The only question is, how much do you rely on Taylor Heineke and Easton Stick? I mean, if the Steelers win, McConkey's not going to play. He's already banged up as he is. We'll probably see Herbert for a very short period of time. we've seen, and we won't see Dobbins unless if they decide, unless if they, what was that?
I was thinking to try and get him more.
It's an interesting discussion on that because he has incentives to reach also to get some more money.
Right.
And also, too, like you said, last week was his second game back. Rust. It would be interesting to see what they do with Dobbins. But again, Steelers 2-point underdogs at home against the Cincinnati Bengals here today.
To your point, though, and you just went through what the Steelers have done since they faced each other. And, I love the revenge. And the Steelers did win. So since that loss, Cincinnati has not lost and have won 4 in a row. And, of course, their competition wasn't that tough either. Dallas, Tennessee, Cleveland, and Denver. But taking care of business one game at a time. So I think they do that here, too.
Really, that 3-game losing streak when they lost the Thursday night game to Baltimore, then had the monster comeback against the Chargers only to lose the game at the end, and then the 44-38 game. Again, that first matchup was 44-38 between these two teams. It was a completely wacko over game that went over the total in the first half by margin. It was already at 48 points. It was already at this total at the end of the first half the last time these teams met. So, again, Steelers were in much better form offensively at that point, but again, we know the Cincinnati defense, El Stinko, and the only reason that the Bengals are not already in the playoffs is because of that defense. Playoffs would have been much better off if the Bengals were in there instead of Denver, but that's a different discussion for a different time. Sorry, Minidar. But again, we'll a little more we'll discuss some other correlation stuff through the show here today because the Charger number, Vinny and Chris already said that number is going to be off the board during the Steeler-Bengal game. Makes sense. Yep. Because that line is really going to – that line could change. I mean, that could turn into Chargers 1 pretty quickly. Maybe even maybe even a pick by the time that's all done, even though Heineke's a real backup that the Chargers have right now. All right. We'll take a quick break. When we get back, more on the NFL, some more college hoops, Vinny Magliulo at some point, and who knows, maybe even Sean will give us a play. Maybe. I don't know.
If his college basketball team is playing.
Is Lamar playing today? All right, we'll see if Sean has a play on the Lamar Cardinals when we get back. Sports by the Book here on a Saturday morning.
Get ready to laugh with Punchlines with Frank Nicotero. Join Frank and his team of featured guests for your daily dose of comedy.
Reno, the Pittsburgh of the West.
Poison.
Yeah.
Poison.
Sports.
F for Falcons, Alex. We were talking Derek Carr for MVP after 2 games.
Who's we?
Okay, me. I was.
And the funniest social media posts.
People want to show off their food. Boom. Wiener on a guy's shoulder. It's the Dark Colts. We bleed blue.
It's your one-stop spot for great laughs and a good time. Find us on YouTube at Punchlines FN. And join the chat live weekdays at noon Pacific for the ultimate blend of jokes, sports, and viral fun.
We have 11 amazing restaurants featuring a wide variety for every price range and appetite. South Point's Garden Buffet has something for everyone at unbeatable prices. Or, if hunger strikes in the middle of the night, join us at Coronado Cafe. The American menu offers breakfast, lunch, or dinner 24 hours a day, plus a Chinese kitchen for authentic Chinese dishes from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. From steak and eggs to wonton soup, it's fast and friendly service 24/7. When you need a quick pick-me-up, you can find it at our state-of-the-art Starbucks just inside the main South Point entrance. Order ahead with the Starbucks app for easy mobile order pickups. Or enjoy your favorites in the relaxing dining area anytime, day or night. If you love Mexican food, Baja Miguel's has all of your south-of-the-border favorites. There are dozens of classics to choose from, like fajitas, ceviche, chimichangas, tacos, and more. And for spirit lovers, Baja's colorful non-smoking tequila bar is right outside.
We're back at Sports by the Book here on a Saturday morning. Jeff Parles, Alex White. We're thrilled to be with you as always. Bright and early. By the way, real quick, some quick updates because we'll be, look, the game's already going, so we can give you Give you some updates. Florida is out to a 20-11 lead with 12:50 to go in the first half. Gators live right now, 4.5-point favorites. Totals only moved 1.5 from what it closed at. Again, closed 167, 167.5. So a point or a point and a half up to 168.5 on a total. Again, Florida, Kentucky, two elite teams there. And then in college football, with the Bahamas Bowl, which, by the way, some bettors, Alex, just vomit at the even saying the Bahamas Bowl because of that infamous Western Kentucky game years and years ago. Buffalo's got a 3-0 lead 5 minutes in there in Nassau against Liberty.
Curious to see what that in-game is for Kentucky.
7.5 right now is the number I'm seeing.
Wow.
Well, Buffalo's getting the ball back after.
No. I'm sorry. I meant that Florida, Kentucky.
Oh.
I was like, you're giving me 7.5 with the Wildcats?
Yeah, it's 2.5 now with a 170.5 on the total. So that total did go up finally.
Okay.
So 20-13 right now, Gators.
Moving to more college basketball?
Yeah, what we got in the chat? We got Minnie Dart complaining about me not liking the Broncos.
He did make a pretty funny statement here. Parles has a perfect storm. The two teams I feel he hates the most, the Dolphins and the Broncos, playing in key games.
Again, I don't hate the Broncos. Miami, different story. So real quick, just because Minnie Dart brought that up, the AFC playoff picture, we mentioned Cincinnati needs to win in order to stay alive. The help they need, the Dolphins, who look like that Snoop Huntley is going to get the start, instead of Tua Tagovailoa, who's still injured with whatever lower body injury he has. So right now, that's a pick now with them and the Jets. Jets are probably going to go off favorite in that game because, of course, they are. And that was my play on Frank's show yesterday, was taking the point with the Jets because forget the Dolphins' injuries. No one has perfected the blow your draft position by winning meaningless games more than the New York Jets through their history. So that's part of the handicap as well. Denver, who's playing Carson Wentz and the Chiefs' backups. By the way, it might only be a half of Carson Wentz. We might see Chris Oludekon in the second half for Kansas City. Denver, a huge favorite in that game, 10.5 points. If the Broncos win, everyone else is out. Denver would be in the playoffs for the first time since they won Super Bowl 50 in 2015, leaving the Jets as the only team in the NFL with a decade-long playoff-less streak. Of course. All right. All right, let's go to college hoops. Big day. These are the beginning of these absurd 125, 130 games in a day streak. By the way, we are hoping to have the three-man weave guys coming back starting next week. Just a matter of if they're able to do mornings, Alex. They might have to be joining us really bright and early here on this show. Let's start in Oxford, Mississippi. So I mentioned this earlier with the SEC with this game going on in Lexington right now, Alex. If we're going KenPom ratings here, the SEC is 2.5 points better than the second best conference, which is a mammoth margin at this time of the season. Well, honestly, it's a pretty mammoth margin at any time of the season. Keep in mind, then the Big 12 is about 3.05 behind them. So nice margin over both of those conferences. They have the number one team in the land in Auburn. We'll get to them a little bit later. But, Alex, they have all but one team in the top 60 at KenPom right now. And that's South Carolina, the only one out of it. Georgia, top 50 KenPom team. Ole Miss, barely just on the outside of the top 30. So, if anything, two of the quote-unquote weaker teams in this league, which is funny because those are good numbers. Ole Miss is 4.5 at home right now, Alex. Here at the South Point, there's a lot of 5 in the market. I laid 4 last night with the Rebs at home. I still think 4.5 is fine. Wouldn't really go much further than that. You're probably looking at push territory. You're tempting fate if you're laying 5. At that point, you may very well push a number you shouldn't. Ole Miss to me is just a better basketball team, and they're at home here. No, need a big game from Dre Davis. That's basically what it comes down to here for me on the Ole Miss side. But like their defense enough against Georgia. Like their offense as well. We know Beard is the better coach in this against Mike White. We'll lay the points with Ole Miss at home in this one.
Pretty surprised that total is moving up. I actually jumped in here on the under. I went under 145.5. As you mentioned, Ole Miss does have a really good defense. They've definitely played the tougher non-con schedule when you compare the two. But, I mean, I do think this will be a tight game, so I agree with you about not laying too many points here. Georgia plays relatively slow, and Ole Miss, their last games have been more possessions per game, but it's because of some of the non-con that they played coming off a loss to Memphis. I think their defense will definitely show up in this one. So it's an underplay for me here in their first conference game of the year.
No problem with that. I'm kind of with you. Would have expected this. Again, Georgia does play at pace, but it still would have expected this to probably stand pat of where it opened up on that total. All right, let's go to South Bend next. Notre Dame and North Carolina. The ACC, the antithesis of the SEC in every sport at this point. It has been a very weak start to the season, to say the very least, for the ACC. And one of the culprits is North Carolina, who has been a monster underachiever so far, 8-6 overall. They lose earlier in the week on the road at the against Louisville. Now they go on the road to Notre Dame, who I think is a pretty average basketball team. They had a nice 4-0 start, including a big win in D.C. against Georgetown, who's not a complete pushover this year. And then they lost 5 in a row. And then 3 straight wins, including beating Syracuse, who stinks this year. Then they lost to Georgia Tech pretty handily earlier in the week. Alex, when this was 5.5 in the overnights, I liked Notre Dame. I didn't play it because I wanted to see how the market played this. Yeah, that was a mistake. Down to 3.5 now. If anything, I'd come the other way, but I don't want to lay. I'm not really interested in laying points on the road with the current form of North Carolina, who, again, their metrics are okay, but they have been really a mess this year. And other than beating Dayton, which was a good win in Maui, and beating UCLA in that big comeback at MSG a few weeks ago, they have really not looked good at all during this season, Alex.
Really struggled on the defensive side, right? Their offense is pretty good, and they're playing really quick, 5th quickest in the country. So I think that's kind of part of it. A little bit of sloppy play. I would look to the over. I just think Notre Dame wants to try and slow this game down, and they are at home, so they might be able to control the pace here. But no play for me in this one. Lean to the over here at 154.5.
Yeah, don't mind that. Just a matter of, like you said, can Notre Dame inflict their will on the pace? If they can, then definitely like the Irish to win the game outright and send North Carolina into even more misery as it is. All right, let's go to the Big 12, which now with this hyper-extended conferences, by the way, 18, obviously Big 10, 16 in the Big 12. The Big 12, at least early this week, had a lot of nonsense go on, including West Virginia, who went on the road as a double-digit underdog and won at Fog Allen inexplicably, which is an unbelievable win for Darian DeVries and his program, really showing that those results down in the Bahamas were not a fluke. Again, they lost to Louisville in overtime. They beat Gonzaga in OT. They beat Arizona. They played 3 overtime games down there. But that was a huge win for them. Now they take on Oklahoma State, who earlier in the week lost to Houston by 13 at home in what was a very easy under game, which I think Houston unders in conference might be pretty good yet again. Alex, my rule of thumb this year in the Big 12 is going to be, unless if the home court advantage is so, and again, this is a very good home court at the Coliseum in Morgantown, unless if it is just like an outrageously bad spot to take an underdog of more than 6 points in this league, more times than not, I'm going to do it. I took 9.5 last night with Oklahoma State. Market moved to 8.5. Just number takes. A lot of these teams are very compact in the Big 12 this year, and even the top is even a little more compact than you would expect. I just think there's a brutal spot for West Virginia, even returning home after that win against Kansas. I think they win, but I don't think they cover.
You know, and we talk about it all the time with college football, and you have to really look at it with college basketball as well. A little bit of a letdown after that big win for West Virginia, Oklahoma State. I like the over here. I mean, I'm surprised it's moved down to 141. When I was looking at all the numbers and comparing, I saw 143 and still leaned to the over here. You brought up that we have Oklahoma State coming off a Houston game where they were forced to play slow and methodical, and I think they'll be ready to run in this one with West Virginia. So I'm going to jump in now that it's gotten this low at over 141.
No problem with that. No problem with that at all. Oklahoma State, tempo-wise, totally different than what we're accustomed to. New coach Steve Lutz came over in the offseason from Western Kentucky after 1 year there. Texas A&M Corpus Christi, where he was before, they always played a quick pace.
Yep.
You could see that they weren't able to do it against Houston because it's Houston. So not much of a shock there. So let's go to a game you're on, Alex. I don't have anything in this one, and this is in the belt. App State, Texas State, Mountaineers of Appalachian State, a 1.5 point favorite against Texas State with a total of 133 here.
So I actually jumped in on the under in this one as well at 133. App State, much better defense than they have offense. So I think that they'll be able to control this game defensively. It's already a low total, but those are some of the ones I like the most when there's a big enough difference here. And I've got this game at 127. So 6 point difference here with Texas State and App. I'm going under the total.
Yeah, don't have too much on these teams, at least yet in my numbers. It would be a lean App State if you made me. I would just money line $1.25, but I'll stay off. Follow Alex's total on that one. All right, let's go to Tennessee and Arkansas next. Good game again. All these games in the SEC are going to be loaded up. The Vols number one in the country in the AP poll. They are one of the remaining unbeatens here in the country. Only 3 left. By the way, Kentucky has just hit Florida with a monster run, and the Cats are up 5.
Wow.
That flipped. That was 26. That was 24-10. Big time run from the Cats. That game's gonna have a lot of flips. Those two teams are really good and very talented offensively. By the way, all 3 undefeated teams are in the SEC. Tennessee, Florida, and Oklahoma, who we'll get to later in the show. This Vol team is unbelievably good. They're top 20 in both offense and defense. They're number 2 in defense in Ken Palm. They're back to playing more of the grinder style that we became accustomed to seeing with Barnes at Tennessee. He went a little quicker the last few years based off his personnel.
Yep.
Now he's parsed it back to the grinder, which is going to make it very difficult for teams to hang in games with them, especially if it's one of those where it's like, oh, their defense is elite, we're having a bad shooting night. With that said, I will very happily take 12 points with Arkansas here today, Alex. This is, again, we have to treat Arkansas as we treated Kentucky the last few years with Calipari there. This team's a little more experienced than the latter Cal teams, really any Cal team at Kentucky. Arkansas has played significantly better since getting clocked by Illinois on Thanksgiving, where that game, they only lost by 13. That was a 20-point game for a chunk of it. Illinois might just be really, really good, as we saw earlier in the week at Oregon. But since then, they've won every game that they've played. They beat Michigan in a big comeback at MSG a few weeks ago. Ken Palm has this game right on 12. This is just going to be a number take for me, Alex. I'm getting so many points with a team that I have power rated in the top 20, even though I have Tennessee power rated number 3 right now. Only Auburn and, yes, Duke still power rated ahead of them for me. But I'll take the points with Arkansas.
I think this number is right there, too, with Tennessee being a 12-point favorite at home. Lean to the over here, even though you mentioned it. I mean, Tennessee wants to play a lot slower than normal, but Arkansas, they're more of the run team here. So it's a lean to the over, not enough for me to make it a play.
Let's look at another one here, Alex. Let's go to we'll go to Middle America. Corn, the Huskers, 2-point favorites against UCLA. Alex, I'm curious your thoughts here because my ratings, even with the home court, and it's a reasonable one at that, my ratings have UCLA as a 2.5-point favorite in this game, which I don't know if I want to trust my numbers here because this is the first road game in the conference that isn't a West Coast road game for UCLA because, remember, they played in Eugene. So familiarity stuff with that. But I don't know. I feel like I get why the market's bet Nebraska. I understand it. But, boy, a 4.5-point difference and a plus price that I get because of it kind of makes this somewhat intriguing on UCLA.
And I am with you. I do have this game at a pick, so it's a little bit of a lean to getting the points there. I went under 133.5 last night. I mean, I think I was still good at 132. My number says 126, so that's still a 6-point. I like that 133.5 a whole lot better, though. But looking at both of these teams, much better defense than offense. UCLA 66 offense, fourth best defense right now, playing slow, 261 in the country. And then Nebraska on the other side, 17th defense efficiency and 75th offense. So good underplay here, I believe, and I think you are still good at 132.
Yeah, that was another lean. I just unders, especially that low in college hoops. I'm very cautious when they go with the side that I like 133.5. Like very easily end up 67, 66 here, and end up with that. All right, let's take a quick break. When we get back, we got a lot more college hoops to get to, and we'll also recap what we like in the 2 NFL games. When we get back, Sports by the Book here on a Saturday morning.
If you're celebrating a special occasion or just love fine dining, you're in the right place. Come experience the crown jewel of South Point restaurants, Michael's Gourmet Room.
Welcome.
With over 600 different types of wines and magnificent dishes prepared tableside, you'll revel in the rich classic Vegas decor and the best black tie service in the world. This intimate gourmet room has earned accolades galore. Come to Michael's Gourmet Room for an unforgettable dining experience. Another famous restaurant is the Silverado Steakhouse, where you'll find the charm and service that discerning patrons require. From top quality steaks and chops to fresh seafood and desserts, you'll love the award-winning wine list and menu at Silverado Steakhouse. Steak lovers have even more options with primarily prime rib. Catering to hearty appetites, the menu features a variety of flavorful prime rib cuts, dry-aged to ensure tenderness, and then seasoned and slowly roasted. Although prime rib is our specialty, it's not the only thing on the menu. There's something for everyone. And if you're craving a taste of Italy, come experience delicious Italian cuisine and the attentive service at Don Vito's. Our culinary team starts with the freshest ingredients and transforms them into traditional favorites. And don't forget Italian desserts. Don Vito's. Savor the taste of Italy. Finally, if sushi is more your style, join us at the popular Zenshin Asian restaurant and sushi bar, where we're serving up the freshest sashimi, nigiri, and sushi rolls. And beyond the sushi, an exciting contemporary Asian cuisine menu, plus a variety of specialty drinks, Japanese and domestic beer, wine, and sake. Balance your hunger with Zenshin.
Welcome back, Sports by the Book here on a Saturday morning. Jeff Parles, Alex White, we are both here bright and early to get you ready for the Saturday across the sports landscape. Let's stay in the Big 12 for college hoops. Let's go to Houston and BYU. Last year in college basketball, Alex White, BYU was not one of my favorite teams. I thought they were overrated. I ended up being right in the end, but of course I had them in the survivor pool, so it cost me.
Did you guys push on your bet? You and one of the neighbors?
I lost because, of course, BYU went to Fog Allen and beat Kansas because, of course, they did. That was why I lost that.
Any new bets this year?
Not yet.
That was with Jim, right?
That was with our friend Jim Root. Yes, BYU won't finish in the top 6 of the league. They did finish 4th. I actually like this BYU team better this year than I did last year. I really like Kevin Young, their first-year head coach, who I think is actually in this era of NIL. We already saw them get the number 1 recruit for next year. Yep. This is a very good fit, and if he wants to stay in Provo, he could be there a very long time. Play a little slower, more efficient offensively, at least to me. They throttled Arizona State earlier in the week. Now they get to go to Houston, which is, again, always going to be a difficult task for anyone. The Cougars almost are actually the usual version of a Kelvin Sampson Houston team, but almost, I don't want to, I'll use the phrase on steroids, but you get what I'm meaning by that, where their defense is even better than it usually is. They're number one by margin in college basketball. They play even slower than usual. They are last in tempo in all college basketball. Their offense, efficiency number-wise, is fine, but they lack, to me, the ability to have the scorer that they can get the bucket whenever they need, like some of his better teams have had in the past. Alex, I'm going to take 10 with BYU in this game, just because I think BYU has enough horses offensively to at least stay in this game. That 133 is interesting. I feel like actually this is a backwards correlation where it's under and favored and over and dog in this game, as opposed to the opposite. But I don't have the fortitude to bet an over in a Houston game with that way that their tempo is just so ridiculously slow this year.
I had to check and see right there, pretty close with Virginia and Drake. Houston is with the slowest in the country. I agree with you. I have Houston 8 here at home, so it would be a lean to BYU and taking the points. And that's why I stayed away from that total, because I do have it a little bit lower at 128. But I think with the low scoring game and double digit points here, I would lean to taking the dog here and them keeping it close enough.
Let's go to another mega game in the Big 12. Baylor and Iowa State. Again, you're going to see a theme with me in these games. We're getting 8.5. As good as Iowa State is, and I think this version of Iowa State is, even though they were 2 seed last year, I think this team is much better than they were a year ago because they have some offensive ability.
Right.
That's the biggest difference with this Iowa State team. Third in the country in offensive rating this year. Their defense is 18th, but they are, to me, much, much more equipped to go on a deep run in March this year because their offense, even though their defense is a little bit worse, their offense is waves better. With that said, my rule, as I said earlier in the Big 12, we're getting more than 6, especially when it's not a totally horrendous spot. We're taking points. Baylor did whack Utah earlier in the week by 25, sure, but I'll take 8.5. Baylor can hopefully stay within that number in a very intimidating environment. Still a uber talented team that Scott Drew has in Waco. We'll take the points with the Bears.
Same side for me in this one. I did take the 8.5 with Baylor, and I love Iowa State, but I think this number is just too big. I did have Iowa State money line the other day. They were 9.5 over Colorado, who's not even close to as good of a team as this Baylor team. Of course, it was in Colorado, but barely covered that one by 10. I think Baylor can hang around in this one, definitely. So taking the points here. Let's
go to Dallas next. Duke makes their first trip to SMU as conference opponents. Yes, that's still going to be weird for a while, especially in hoops. Alex, 8 on this one with a total of 147.5. Not much movement at all here at the South Point. Only that total's gone down a point. That 8 has stood completely still the whole way through. And, quite frankly, I think that number's good. It would be a slight lean to the dog, but nothing too strong in this game for me.
That's it. Me too. I think it's the right number. Lean to the dog at home, getting 8 points here, but I think that total's just right as well.
Arizona and Cincinnati. Wildcats have been one of the bigger disappointments so far this year. Their Ken Pom numbers look good. They're in the top 20, but 7-5. They've one win against the top 100 team this year. That came earlier in the week against TCU. I mean, every high-level game they played this year, they have lost so far.
But you say disappointment. They're much better than last year.
Arizona?
Oh, did you? Wildcats. I was thinking Bearcats.
No.
Like, wait,
we got to get our cats right, Alex.
Yes. Wildcats. Disappointment.
Yes, Arizona 7-5. Again, the only top 100 win was earlier in the week against TCU. The Bearcats of Cincinnati, yes, they lost earlier in the week with against Kansas State, which I thought was a really good spot to bet on K-State, and they won the game outright. Cincinnati, again, they've beaten 2 top 100 Ken Pom teams. They did win the big rivalry game against Xavier, and then I was thoroughly impressed in the game against Dayton. They really sucked the life out of the Flyers by the end of that game. High-end defense for the Bearcats here. 147 here total contrast to style. I actually lean the favorite at home in Cincinnati, even though your number is, what was it, 2.5 last night, right?
It
was 2.5. It was 2.5. Toggler 3, 2.5. Thankfully for Vinny and company, it's not a football game. But I still like it. Cincinnati at 3. I think their style prevails at home. And again, this is a big game too. I know this is not Cincinnati's first year in the Big 12, but you're welcoming a big-time basketball program in Arizona to your building for the first time in a very long time. They played a few times in non-con, but I would take Cincy's the play here, lay the points, bounce back after that loss in the octagon.
If it gets any higher, though, I'm going to have to jump in here on the dog with Arizona just being the better offensive team and wanting to play at that quick pace. It's just, I think this game should be more like a pick-em between these two, even though I'm talking about Cincinnati because it's been a few years since we've seen them even in the rankings here. So it is good to see them back. But I'm leaning towards the dog here and see if I can get any more.
This is, again, going to happen in the Big 12 a lot. Cincinnati goes Arizona, Baylor, Kansas, their next 3. All top 20 Ken Palm. Again, Arizona's closer to 40 for me. I just don't buy them at all. And Caleb Love, boy, what a total fall apart of his career at this point in college. All right, moving along. Battle of the Tigers, the number 1 team in the country to me, and I think most people will do power ratings. Auburn, 18-point favorites against Mizzou. This is a pure number take. I took 18.5 last night with Mizzou. Could I get blasted? Oh, yeah, I could. Absolutely. Auburn is capable of beating anyone by 25 points on any single night. But this is just going to be the case. This is just going to kind of be what it's going to be for me this year, especially with the strength of the SEC teams around them.
Yep.
You're going to be giving me this many points in a conference game. I'm going to take them. And if Auburn blows me out, so be it. They are the number 1 team in my power rankings. I'd love to be able to bet them from time to time, but I think their numbers are just going to be so bloated because of how darn good they are, Alex.
And even looking at their future numbers, right, that's way too low already on this Auburn Tigers team. But can't fault you here for taking the points. I think the numbers are just right here, side and total.
It's a lot of points.
And the first conference game, yeah.
But like you said, I can't really there's only a point difference from going through mine, but I just see that number. It's like, oh my goodness, I'm getting a top 40 team getting 18 points. I'm going to take that, and if it loses, so be it. All right, let's go to the Mountain West. Boise hosting San Diego State. The Aztecs had that last time out, had that bizarre game where they look like they're in control most of the way against Utah State and found a way to lose at Viejas, which you just don't see very often. Now they go on the road to Boise State, who, again, other than that, they have 2 very nice wins. They beat Clemson handily, in a very weird road spot for Clemson, and they beat St. Mary's in OT. But their other losses, like lose to Boston College, not a great loss. Wazoo beat them in a game where Wazoo controlled the whole way. And then the loss on the hill against the Dons of San Francisco. I'm going to take the points with San Diego State here. I don't have the most confidence in this one, but this is a scenario where I'm going to trust that Aztec defense coming off of that horrible outing last time against Utah State, blowing that game in the fashion they did. We'll take the points with San Diego State plus 4.5 here in Boise.
I can't fault you. I do think that number is right here with Boise being a 4-point favorite at home, or 4.5 point. That number's moved a little bit, but I do think Brian Dutcher will have the Aztecs ready and coming off a loss. So situationally, I can see taking the points here.
Let's go to Tuscaloosa next. Undefeated Oklahoma might be in for a reality check here today against Alabama. I don't know how good I know they're 13-0, and they have good wins mixed in. They beat Louisville, they beat Arizona, they beat Michigan on a neutral in what was a pretty awesome game when they played. I don't know how good this Oklahoma team really is. It just feels like they have all the breaks have gone their way so far this year, and it's odd to say about a 13-0 team with a bunch of solid wins and winning the Atlantis tournament this year. The battle for Atlantis. Boy, I really want, again, I see 13 Forget the rankings on the left. Those mean nothing here. I see 13. I'm like, that's a lot of points to take with a team that is, like, by numbers standards, still a pretty competent team, but very hesitant because this could be one of those, especially we know Bama at home, if they're making threes, they run out of the building like Auburn has so far across. So I'll take 13, but boy, I don't have a lot of confidence in that one, Alex. But this is another one of these pure number takes that I'm doing here today in these college hoops games.
I would love to jump in this one, maybe some in-game. If Oklahoma gets a lead at some point, I'd like to get a better number on Bama. I just kind of the opposite of what we were saying with the Tar Heels here. Alabama, they play quick, but they're just so efficient offensively and run their offense really quick. So I like what Nate Oates has done with this team, and I think they're pretty poised to make a run again. So waiting for a better number, though. I agree that 13 is a lot here in this conference game.
Let's go to LA next. USC hosting Michigan. 5 now on this one with the Wolverines. Oh boy. I liked it at 4.5. I still like it at 5. There's a bunch of 5.5 in the market, so I wouldn't go much more than 5, but I just think Michigan's a lot better, even on the road here. Maybe find a dance partner in a money line parlay with Michigan. That might be the way to go here today. I like the Wolverines here in this one at Galen.
I do too. I think that they could be a 7-point favorite here. That is what my numbers say. So I like that, finding a money line partner.
You know what? Maybe with the next game we'll have a money line partner because we'll go to the Battle of Texas at A&M. There you go. Actually, you know what? Put the 2 minus 240s together. I like the Aggies last night at 5. Now it's 6. Still think it's fine, but tread carefully. Again, this is another one of these where, we'll say, even though the SEC has all these top 50 teams, I don't really like this Texas team particularly much. Of the SEC teams, the only teams that I have worse than them are LSU and South Carolina. So I have them 14th out of the 16. I even have Vandy ahead of them right now. But I don't know. This is another one this is a team that really battered bad comp so far this year. Their best win is against NC State, who I think is a mediocre ACC team. They lost to Ohio State. They got plastered pretty good at home by UConn. Texas, if we end up with teams like falling out of the bracket, they would be one of them that I expect to fall out of the bracket when it's all said and done. And A&M's really good. Really good yet again. This would probably, to me, the best team Buzz Williams has had down there. Great defensively. Good enough offensively. There are only 2 losses. They had that weird loss on opening night in Orlando to UCF, not a pushover. And Oregon beat them here in Vegas. Nothing wrong with those 2 losses. They beat Purdue. They beat Texas Tech. They have a bunch of quality wins. I do like the Aggies here, even at the worst of the number here at 6.
This will be an interesting one. We'll see how good both of these teams really are. You mentioned it about both teams being really good. Well, especially the Aggies defensively, but Texas is stronger on that side as well. So it is interesting to me. I saw 139 earlier. It's getting bet up. If it goes any higher, I'm going to have to jump in on the under between these two. Texas, very good defensively, especially defending the perimeter. And then they actually force their opponent into the shot clock. So we'll see if they can do that here against this good Aggies team. But lean to the under for me at 141.
All right, that's what we got college hoops-wise here today. Let's circle back to the NFL real quick, if anyone's just joining us late here on the show. 2 NFL games today. In Baltimore, the Ravens are only 20, Alex. They're only 20 at home against the Browns. Bailey Zappi starts. Bunch of offensive weapons not playing for Cleveland. Of course, Nick Chubb's season is over already. Jerome Ford's out. David Njoku's out. Ravens, Justice Hill's really the only name of note that is not playing in this game for Baltimore here today. With a win, the Ravens clinched the AFC North for the second consecutive season, Alex.
The one thing that we forgot to mention, and I think it's good that we're talking about this game, but the Ravens held Houston to 2 points. They had a safety.
Yeah, defense pitched a shutout, Alex.
Yes, they did. So, I mean, we've been talking about how bad this defense is for a Baltimore team, but they've continued to get better throughout the year. So that has to do with this number as well. We'll see what Bailey Zappi and company can do in this one. But nothing for me. It would be an over because, I mean, their offense has been incredible all year long with Derrick Henry being added into that already good offense. So This is a tough game to bet here.
Again, I'm looking for any reason humanly possible to take 20, and I can't get there. How absurd is
I was trying to
that?
help you with another reason not to.
Nah, it's just absurd. It just can't get there with 20 in an NFL game. Again, I will say, we talked about this earlier. The fact that the bettors did take this from 18.5 to 20 when Bailey Zappi was named the starter just shows that some people are just not paying attention. Like DTR, there's been a lot of bad quarterback play this year. I think DTR has been the worst quarterback we've seen in the NFL this year. That includes Deshaun Watson, which is saying something.
What is we saw DTR look good in preseason, not this year, last year, right? And that's kind of still stuck in people's head.
Alex, I think it's just people I think there was enough people with money who just were not paying attention. I think that's just all it is. And that happened this week. Like Chris brought it up yesterday. Like we knew Patrick Mahomes wasn't playing.
Right.
Why did bettors take the Kansas City line to 11 when it was ruled that when Mahomes was officially ruled out?
Right.
Like, why? You knew he wasn't playing. Yeah, because if Patrick Mahomes is going to play in a game against the Broncos are going to be a 10-point favorite in that game every time, right, Alex?
Right.
Like, what are we doing here with that? And then the Ram game was another one he mentioned that it was already 6.5, and bettors moved it up a half point when Garoppolo was named to start. Like, why? Like, it's stupid. And just, you can come in on the other side. Again, I don't think I would here because the Browns are that bad, but boy, 20 in an NFL game. And then the last one, the Bengals and the Steelers, 2 behind us, 2.5 elsewhere, with the Bengals laying it on the road. Total 48.5 moved up during the show. Again, Steelers win, they're the 5 seed. Bengals win, they're still alive to tomorrow, needing both a Miami and a Denver loss to sneak in the back door as the 7 seed.
Both of us on the same side in this one with the Bengals and taking the better quarterback in Joe Burrow in the year that he has had. So
I will be doing the parlay of the Bengals with the Chargers here, Alex. We're just going to take that money line. I also don't mind it. I might play this at 2 different books. I might just take both versions of this because that is a nice juicy price if you go Pittsburgh and Raider money line right now. Right now, that game, by the way, the Chargers 4.5-point favorites in that one. Raiders best price I'm seeing on the Raiders plus 180 in the market on that money line. All right, you know what? Bounce early here today, Alex. We got the show tomorrow in 24 hours. Final Sunday of the NFL regular season. We will do our best to decipher what the heck is going on. We'll do our best because there's a lot of nonsense going on tomorrow. Thankfully, we have the game of the NFL season to wrap up the regular season with 14-2 Minnesota and 14-2 Detroit, which we'll get to at the end of the show tomorrow.
I still just could not believe that the loser of that game has to fall to the 5 seed.
That's your format, unfortunately.
It's just bad.
Yeah,
bad break for one of them.
By the way, you quality to our camera to be able to see actually what you wrote there with Alex's whiteboard. Baylor plus 8.5, the under on UCLA and Nebraska, and the Cincinnati Bengals on the money line for Alex White here today on the whiteboard.
Yes, that is my whiteboard place today. Let's keep it going.
All right. Good luck. Good luck to everyone in the chat. Good luck to your dog, Sean. How big of an underdog is Lamar today? Oh, he didn't even have it. He doesn't get it. He doesn't get it on the show there. Then, or is Sean even though he's producing the show, even listening to us?
Are they a favorite?
Oh,
on the extra game sport.
Wow, Lamar's favored by. Oh, they're playing Houston Christian, who's bad. Yeah. Oh, I don't know if I agree with that. All right. We'll see you tomorrow, 9 a.m. right here, Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio.